Just wanted to give thanks for all the knowledge that we carry in the places that we come from, and that continue to be lifted through the sharing of our stories and coming back together. I also wanted to give thanks for all the grandmothers and the grandfathers, all of our knowledge as we move into winter, all the spirit of our traditional knowledge that rests in those places, our wisdom of our knowledge carriers through our languages, through our creation stories, that they're continuing to rise as our natural laws that guide the spirit of our work together. And even thinking of Patricia and others who knew that to align and listen deeply with Nokomis is something that's needed to regain balance and harmony at this time in our work. So I just, felt very grateful when I got to join the full moon ceremonies myself here, to be able to listen into the spirit of our work in such an integral way. I wanted to share a song in opening just as we turn to the winter here. We just had a fresh falling of snow, just that there's so much that's needed right now. There is so much in need as we move to winter, whether we're talking about all of our collective efforts, or I'm thinking of, it's just some of the young people that are just at the edge of life. And so I just wanted to share a song that comes from the lands here. It's a water song. It means just give me one more drop of water. Just need one more drop of water, and really speaks to what we really, really need right now. And just praying that we have the resources to be able to share and to bring forward what's needed. And just to share from the waters here comes from an area where even grandmother Josephine walked and led a water walk with a lot of women from across nations. And the water still needs a lot of support and protection. It's still not recognized, and it's still being, it's still being violated both on a community and in our natural law. So I wanted to share that song and just welcome you just to take yourself into your places, the people and places that are in need right now, and to give thanks for everything that we carry together. Miigwech. Nebewa bonga ge gichuan hey. Nebewa bonga ge gichuan hey. Gage gichuan hey. Nebewa bon. Nebewa bonga ge gichuan hey. Nebewa bonga ge gichuan hey. Gage gichuan hey. Nebewa bon. Nebewa bonga ge gichuan hey. Nebewa bonga ge gichuan hey. Nebewa bonga ge gichuan hey. Gage gichuan hey. Nebewa bon. Nebewa bonga ge gichuan hey. Nebewa bonga ge gichuan hey. Nebewa bonga ge gichuan hey. Gage gichuan hey. Nebewa bon. Kind of gonna miigwech everyone. Be nice now to turn to our collective circle here in the sphere and turn to Chelsea to weave us forward. Miigwech.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Erin, for that beautiful song. Chelsea Martin, Nitsigitson, Baashkaakodin. Good morning, everybody. So my name is Chelsea Martin, and I work with Ducks Unlimited Canada. My gifted name from my granny is Misquankudokwe, which translates to Red Sky Woman. I'm calling in today from Treaty 6 territory, which I'm calling in from Edmonton, but was traditionally known as Beaver Hills House. And so I want to acknowledge both of my parents here today as well. So on my dad's side is where I inherit my Anishinaabe background. I am a proud member of the Chippewas of Nawash First Nation, which is located in southwestern Ontario. And on my mom's side, she was a part of a closed adoption. So we don't actually know a lot about her background, but she is a tall redhead. So we can make some pretty good inferences there. So I will be taking us through the slide deck today. And I want to acknowledge that while I have some Cree language teachings, I sadly don't have my Anishinaabe language. And so the moons that will be on the screen will have both the English and Anishinaabe moons. And I don't want to mispronounce the moons. And so I'm going to only say them in the English. If there are folks here that want to come forward and help me pronounce the Anishinaabe terminology, that would be fantastic. But it is not an obligation on anybody. So I commit to learning the proper pronunciation in my Anishinaabe language moving forward for sure. So hello, welcome to the RAD Full Moon Gathering for 2023, our final full moon gathering. So we started these monthly gatherings at the suggestion from the amazing Patricia Solis in order to deepen our relationships with one another, learn from one another, and envision a pathway forward. We followed the Anishinaabe teachings of the moon, and each moon is a designated name that corresponds with the seasonal influence. And so we committed to hosting 9 virtual full moon network gatherings over these 13 moons. We stopped over the summer months as many of us were super busy on the land. And the final gathering is now so that everybody can be with their families and have a break over the holiday season. So at each of the full moon gatherings, we introduced many different themes related to the work that RAD is doing. These themes were brought forward in short presentations and discussions, and then we broke out into separate virtual rooms to have time to take deeper dives together. Each breakout room had a note taker and attempted to capture all the main themes. And then we also had the Google Sheet available for people to fill in afterwards and during as well. And so we sent all of those themes back to you each month with links and opportunities on how to come to the monthly newsletter. And so then appropriately, we are finishing this year with the freezing moon, which is the spiritual time for reflecting and giving appreciation to which we have received from the previous seasons. Our question today is, what gifts have previous moons brought forward? And so in our discussion, we will reflect on previous moons and consider what virtual gatherings might look like in the future to best serve this network. So we would like to understand from our discussion today, how might RAD better serve the needs of communities and those working at grassroots on the ground? What different formats for different purposes, and then topic-specific or context-specific conversations. And so before we move to our discussion, we're going to walk through a little bit of what was completed over the full moon gatherings from this past year. We will tell you about the full moon at this point, and about the question that we brought forward and the themes that we've reflected back on. So January, we had the spirit moon, and the question that we had was, how do we advance ethical space in Indigenous-led conservation finance? We started here because it shows relationship based on respect and legal pluralism, the coexistence and equality of the Crown and Indigenous legal systems. And Indigenous knowledge cannot be placed underneath Crown policy. Rather, it exists in a context of Indigenous worldview, culture, laws, and policy. And ethical space suggests that we widen the purpose of nature-based solutions away from the narrow conservation or climate outcomes such as achieving 30 by 30 or valuing a single resource like carbon, and towards more holistic Indigenous versions that honor culture, relationships, and nature. Jumping to the February moon, which is the bear moon, we had the question of what does Indigenous-led conservation economy mean to you in your work or your community? How could the knowledge products being created in this collaborative work group benefit land, water, and air protection in your Indigenous community or the Indigenous communities that you partner with? We started the second gathering with a song from Patricia, and we featured case studies and stories of Indigenous-led conservation finance and explored together what conservation finance means to you and your community. And so some of the main themes that we had were Indigenous economies are very different from Western mainstream economies. The language and the words that we use are very important. For example, conservation is only one piece of the holistic economy. It was very clear that well-being, spirit, and culture must be integral to this journey, and allies and partners can make the case to funds to support Indigenous-led projects and ensure that funds go directly to communities. Next, we have the March moon. And the question that we had was, how might conservation financing be rooted in spirit and ceremony? And so we had Patricia Solis open our discussion in a good way again with a song from her territory, explaining that the drumbeat represents the heartbeat of Mother Earth. We then heard from several additional members of the RAD Network's leadership, which included Trish Nash, David Flood, and Kim Neal. What we heard is that we live in a spiritual deficit. For many of us, our spiritual muscle is weak, and due to colonialism and capitalism, mainstream Western finance and governance is focused on action, and the spiritual realm isn't addressed. Yet through reconnection and transformation, it is possible. The transformation we imagine is rooted in collaboration and must be envisioned collaboratively and rooted in spirit and ceremony. Transformation begins with being in a relationship with the land and engaging in ceremony to achieve alignment and connection. Next, we have April, which is the sugar bush moon. And the question that we had was, how do we ensure space to build a shared vision of an Indigenous-led conservation economy? We turned our attention to visioning together. As the RAD network continues to evolve and grow as a network, we came together to seek to collectively lay the groundwork for where we go from here. And so with this in mind, we asked, how do we initiate visioning in a good way? What is needed for us to effectively co-create a shared vision of an Indigenous-led conservation economy? And so many of us met in person for the first time, and we had a visioning gathering hosted by Patricia Solis and facilitated by the amazing Erin Dixon. And so we came together with Indigenous leaders, knowledge holders, land stewards, and partners to co-create a shared vision of our emerging network. And we came together guided in spirit, in ceremony, where we talked in a circle, we danced, we ate, and we wove an ash basket together. And so we used this time to determine how to move forward together to advance Indigenous-led conservation and stewardship, rooted in abundance and supported in part by new and emerging financial pathways. So then moving towards the May moon, which is the flowering moon, we had the question of how can Indigenous-led conservation financing contribute to healing and readying of the nations? And then we move to the June moon, which is, this moon is widely known as the strawberry moon, which is a time of growing and strong relationships with kindness and love. And so our June full moon network gathering focused on youth engagement and leadership. And we opened the space with Christina, and we heard from after which we heard more from the RAD network and the inspiration for this full moon gathering. And then we heard from a youth panel about the importance of youth engagement and what's inspiring them to get involved in land and water and biodiversity protection. We had panelists of Adrian and Tara who shared their powerful words and insights throughout the discussion. We heard different perspectives and stories and reflections, reflecting a range of contexts and experiences from across Turtle Island. There were some key commonalities in terms of challenges and successes in elevating youth leadership. Many of us discussed the importance of fostering connection to the land amongst youth through land-based activities and opportunities for capacity building, or something that we could maybe call bundle building. Various suggestions were raised for the RAD network to specifically for implementing within our respective communities and organizations, such as putting structures in place for youth leadership, supporting and fostering connections among existing youth groups, building organizational capacity by investing in youth leadership, youth mentorship, skill building, sponsorships, facilitating intergenerational connections with elders, providing supports for mental wellness and self-care among youth champions. So we discussed how opportunities can be unlocked by addressing accessibility issues, tapped into youth interests, trusting and empowering youth to take the lead, and valuing their knowledge and ideas. After this gathering, we stopped for the summer, and many of us were out on the land. And so then we regathered in September, which is the Leaves Are Turning moon, and a time to reflect on what we've learned and give thanks to the previous moons. So after the summer, we came back to harvest the bounty that began to grow in the spring. We presented highlights from our report from the spring gathering, envisioning the Indigenous-led economy, conservation economy. Elder Ramona opened our discussion in a good way with a traditional song, and we had the amazing Patricia Salas do moderation, and Elder Ramona also shared teachings on the importance of ceremony and reflections on the significance of moving from vision to action in light of the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. The context provided by RAD leadership group members, David Flood, we introduced the key work baskets that are emerging within RAD. Namely, we have the network weaving and relationships, law, policy, and advocacy, and creating the financial pathways. And so then participants then joined breakout groups of their choosing, which were organized as the following topics. We had learning and capacity building, kinship and storytelling, youth engagement, jurisdiction and legal, Indigenous rights to carbon and ecosystem services, federal policy and advocacy, as well as measurement and data sovereignty. And we'll put the link in the chat to our website where you can download the report that we have here. Looks like that has already been done, which is awesome. And so then we have October, which is the falling leaves moon. And in the Anishinaabe tradition, this moon is a time for sharing and gifting what we have gathered. And so we share with you our vision in a webinar of our emergent network, and which has been woven together by many, many amazing individuals. We did this webinar in lieu of our usual full moon gathering format and featured reflections of background provided by our leadership group. And we showed a short film that was created by Jeremy Williams that gave flavor to the gathering that we had back in April. And then we have November, which is the freezing moon. And this moon is the phase where the time of year where the earth and the creatures are preparing to fast and slow down and remind us to prepare ourselves for the spirituality of the coming months. We're looking back in appreciation to all of the previous seasons that have been brought forward, and we're excited to co-create new offerings together, which brings us back to today's question. How have the RAD Network's full moon gathering conversations served you? What do you see moving forward? I'm going to pass it back to Erin, and we'll get started on that. Thank you so much. Hi.
Thank you, Miigwech Chelsea, for dancing us through. I was imagining that snake dance going across very quickly all across that time and all the efforts and life people put into those months. So just want to say thank you to everyone for showing up, and also for all the hard work that's got us here, but also the insight that will carry us forward in a meaningful way. And I'm just going to sing a song to help us dance out. For those of us who were in St. Mary's First Nation, Elder Ed Purley wanted us to do a snake dance. And it just happened yesterday here at home in Wissahickon. We visited the Snake Rock to close the spirit for the winter, to close the ceremony, to let the spirit rest, to listen to the stories, to pick up the learnings, to, as Darcy would say, turn to the sky world to get our guidance for things to come in the spring. So I wanted to sing the snake song just in honor of Elder Ramona, who, as we prepared the tobacco for the gathering and for that dance, that everything can move forward in a very powerful way, and hopefully in a way that is unexpected and carries us through the winter in ways that will bring life beyond what we can see. So just wanted to welcome people to dance out and leave as you need to as a traveling song, and I'll just share the snake song in the way that it's sung here at home. Yo way da, way ho, way ho, way ho, way da. Yo way da, way ho, way ho, way ho, way da. Way ho, way ya, way ho, way da, way ho, way da. Way ho, way ya, way ho, way da, way ho, way da. Yo way da, way ho, way ho, way ho, way da. Yo way da, way ho, way ho, way ho, way da. Way ho, way ya, way ho, way da, way ho, way da. Way ho, way ya, way ho, way da, way ho, way da. Yo way da, way ho, way ho, way ho, way da. Yo way da, way ho, way ho, way da. Way ho, way ya, way ho, way da, way ho, way da. Way ho, way ya, way ho, way da, way ho, way da. Yo way da, way ho, way ho, way da. Yo way da, way ho, way da. Way ho, way ya, way ho, way da, way ho, way da. Way ho, way ya, way ho, way da, way ho, way da. Kind of gonna.
Aho.
Ankuya si, wala alin.
Wasi Joe. Honest, in less, huh?